very welcome along to Series 4, Episode 3 of Champ.ie's Road to Cheltenham Challenge, brought to you in association with Boylesports, Gowran Park Racecourse and Syndicates.Racing. Talking all things Cheltenham, the top performances over the past week, and answering your hashtag big questions every Monday. Barry and Ronan will once again go head-to-head by giving one Ante-Post selection each week until the 2024 festival in March.
The final bit, it's appreciated. Foster slow on the inside. Galopande Champ is switching between them. Foster slow on the inside is inching up as they go to the line. Foster slow has lifted it from appreciated, and Galopande Champ third and return.
Showing over 44 points profit from 132 point stakes since 2020, the Champ.ie Road to Cheltenham Challenge show is this season bidding to secure 4 years of Ante-Post profit in a row. The lads look forward to discussing your own Week 3 selection, and don't forget it's important to update your full Ante-Post portfolio in the comments to help us keep track. Give this video a like for more Cheltenham content, and be sure to subscribe to the Champ.ie YouTube channel, Ireland's premier horse racing podcast. Enjoy the show.
Boylesports. Don't just bet, choose wisely.
Hello and welcome back to episode number 3 of the Road to Cheltenham Challenge, series number 4 with myself and the Doyle and Groome. It's been a busy weekend, Ronan Groome, on all fronts. You were in London, I was in Westport, and there was plenty of racing happening.
All change in the race in a big weekend. Lots of clues as we were talking off air, and obviously the main stories, I guess, the 1-2 from the Gold Cup last year getting turned over odds on. So it's as Mike Vince might say, it's all change in the Gold Cup markets. So we'll be discussing that and plenty more in the next 40 minutes or so, I'm sure. Plenty
more and plenty to discuss. And we just about caught up, Ronan, because as I said, it's been a very busy weekend, and just want to thank our sponsors, of course, of the Champ.ie podcast for the new season, Gowran Park Racecourse, your premier racecourse in the southeast of Ireland, of course. Boylesports, our betting partner, and Syndicates.Racing, which I'm sure for affordable prices would be delighted to get you to the big days. Of course, the likes of Grand G, Cabaret Queen. It was great to have Jack on the show, of course. 2 weeks ago now at this stage, the season is absolutely flying. And, well, of course, he did give us his very generous €50 off your first share today for Champ.ie followers. And so we'll make sure when you do pick your horse, whether it's with Willie Mullins, Gordon Elliott, Henry de Bromhead, Joseph O'Brien, the list goes on, make sure at the checkout to type in, of course, the Champ discount, which is all caps, of course, Champ, to avail of that €50 off your first share. And I'm sure we'll be having Jack giving consistent updates right throughout the season. We'll have Eddie on this week on Thursday's show, Eddie Scally from Gowran Park Racecourse, of course, the general manager, to discuss all things Thyest is, of course, really building up to that now. And you will be able to, of course, avail of this beautiful offer down in the comments below. Save 25%. All Champ.ie followers on early bird Thyestes Day tickets. So lots to look forward to. We cannot wait, as we say, to be on the Gowran Park Racecourse, to be down there, of course, on Thyestes Day, the 25th of January. Ronan, so much to discuss, so many highlights. Let's just kick in to the first section of the show, which is, of course, our star ratings for the performances of the weekend. And well, dating back for the last 7 days, and I've taken the top 3, you've taken the bottom 3, and I suppose we'll start with you, because you've taken a look at Statement, obviously, in the Margiata, and Faster Slow, who is so good in the John Durkin chase. You were sweet on him, Ronan Groome, 9-1. I don't think you were expecting that big a price.
No, he was a big drifter on the day. The money was sweet, obviously, for the Mullins kind of contingent. Obviously, got up into Champ being the one that went off odds on. But look, he was good, Faster Slow. Like, what can you say about him? He travelled nicely, sweetly through the race again. He probably jumping warmed up, but it was always quite nimble. You know, it was always pretty sharp, especially when he needed it to be sharp. And you know, he was good late on. Even JJ dropped his whip on the way in, and he still got up to win. Appreciated, probably got the run of things out in front, and got up in the Champs. What do we say about him? It's 2 kind of below par runs now. Has that Gold Cup taken it out of him? I guess we'll learn more when he comes back up to 3 miles, but the jury is well and truly out, I suppose, now on him and Brave Man's Game, which I'm sure we'll come on to. I just thought his jumping went to pieces. Not to pieces, he just not the jumping that we know he can do, which was so integral to the type of horse he was. And early in his career especially, but even when he was up to 3 miles last season, he wasn't jumping like that. I saw something on that new Race IQ project that Ruby Walsh is involved with Racing TV, that Gallop and Deschamps lost up to something like 15 lengths, which obviously, if that's anyway accurate at all, it's just not going to cut it. As I said, jury is out on him, but maybe give him another chance back up to 3 miles. I just don't know what to do with him now. Is they've taken the sting out of him from what he was in his novice days when we were pressing for him to go for the turners, and they've got him to settle down now. And now he's just a completely different type of horse, and maybe they'd be better off riding him up front again and going from the front in that way, or is he just completely switched off now that he's not jumping as well as he could do? So
it's incredible. It's mad that we're talking about Gallop and Deschamps, and he's a shorter price still for the Gold Cup over Faster Slow, who's lowered his colours on 2 occasions. And I think when I had JJ on the show last week, building up to the weekend's racing, JJ Slevin, he made reference to, I suppose, the talk was, Brave Man's Game, for example, and Gallop and Deschamps, that at Punchestown they were both tired horses. But I mean, Faster Slow went to Cheltenham as well and ran an absolute cracker in the Ultima. How much did that race take out of him? It's not as if he didn't turn up at Cheltenham prior. And I really liked him for the Gold Cup prior to the John Durkan, Faster Slow. And I absolutely love him for the Gold Cup after the John Durkan. I think he's obviously an improving 7-year-old. He's only had 6 chase runs in his life. I thought he was really, really good. And I thought the way he travelled through the race, he probably, if anything, he was over racing Ronan early in the race, but his jumping is a big, big asset. And I thought he was shifting slightly out to his left as well, maybe suggesting that, the likes of Cheltenham or left-handed tracks is going to suit that little bit better. And to be honest, I wasn't expecting him to win half as easy as he did. I thought it was a cracking performance. And you've given him a 4.5-star rating. For me, he was up there to close to the performance of the entire weekend. I thought he was really, really, really decent.
Yeah, I would loathe to give out 5 stars to any horse. I guess that'd be a 10 out of 10. I suppose I went for 9 out of 10, so I'm pretty positive on him, pretty sweet on him. Just you do have to get 5 stars, I guess. But I guess if you were knocking the race, you'd suggest Gallop and Deschamps is not near his best there, and appreciate probably had the run of things in front, and in that regard, and it is just their first start of the season, so the horses can go different ways now from now on. But what you can say about him is he has a lovely profile, doesn't he? Like, he's a
lovely profile.
We talked about him on the show, and the main point there was that he'd lost his novice status when he was a young horse in France, so he basically, like, he's in all but name, he's a second season chaser, which is a lovely type of profile you need for the Gold Cup. And he was basically winning that race in Punchestown last year as a novice chaser. That's a fair enough comment to say. He was beating Gallop and Deschamps.
Well, the first half of the season was really just Martin Brazel bringing him to the Boyle nice and gently. And I mean, I thought his run, probably when you look back, his run in the Ultimate might not be getting the credit that it deserves. We're talking about the run at Punchestown, for example, but we see what Corach Rambler went on to do. We went on to win the National and back up the form. And we'll talk about him later on in the show. I thought he's run a very nice race in the of course, the Betfair Chase at Haydock. So for me, I think Faster Slow, it's incredible to think that he's beaten Gallop and Deschamps twice over different trips. And we're looking at Gallop and Deschamps basically half the price than Faster Slow. And I think at this point, probably both are fairly enough price. I'm not sure if you'd be rolling in either at this stage at their prices, but at this point in time, I think Faster Slow, in terms of a Gold Cup candidate, he would be top of my list, and I want to be clear on that.
Yeah, I'd agree with you. And what you can say with this horse is how brilliantly handled he's been by Martin Brazel to get him there to win at Punchestown last season. He's nearly won 2 Cheltenham Festival races with him. He's only been touched off in both. And he's been handled brilliantly to come to the Boyle at Cheltenham. So no better man, obviously, to keep that up for the 3rd season in a row than Martin Brazel. And we've seen down the years how good he is when he has
One of the questions I asked Ronan just to JJ last week prior to the John Durkan, he didn't have any issue with the trip. I just wanted to see it over 2 miles and 3 furlongs. But the way he jumped, and particularly in the latter part of the races at both Cheltenham in the Ultima and obviously at Punchestown, the way he jumped in particular at the latter part the business end of the races. That's what really, really impressed me. He's so sharp through the air and economical as well. Like, it's not as if he's, jumping like a 2-miler, but he's very, very good jumper. And I think he's also shown that, he's proven to relish the hill as well. I thought he came up the hill, very, very strongly last year behind Cork Rambler, and another couple of strides he probably would have got there. So that's, I suppose, a 4.5-star rating for Roland. I'd be leaning nearly close to 5, but do you know what? We'll stick with that. 5.5, or sorry, 4.5, should I say, for fast or slow. But talk us through Stateman, because I'm not sure we learned the whole pile. You've given him a 4-star rating in the Morgiana.
Yeah. Well, we don't have to take as long on Stateman because we didn't win the whole pile, but it'd be remiss of us not to mention him because he's a rock solid operator, isn't he? And like he's just done what he's done all last season, won by 4 or 5 lengths. And that's what he does. You could set your clock by him in these Irish Grade 1 races. It seems to be like, he's won 5 now at open level, and like, he probably is a bit underrated. He's probably just a bit unlucky to be against Constitution Hill. But if Constitution Hill showed any signs or any cracks of maybe, we just seen it can happen with these big name horses. It's probably not going to happen. But if he did show any signs of cracks this season at all, like, Stateman is a rock solid operator to go and to take him on with, And for me at the moment, he's the number 1 hope from the Closutton team. I would see him Perry Pass this Sunday. But he's got to come up to his level. I think that's the type of punter I am anyway. I always go with the trusted and what you've seen with your eyes already, as opposed to the potential, which in Perry Pa is still just a potential horse. Now, granted, he has a lot of potential. He was top class novice last season, but Stateman has been there and done it 5 times now at open level Grade 1s. And he reminds me just a bit of just those horses that do enough to win, but they don't ever go and win by 15 lengths, but they just keep winning. And he's ultra professional, hurdles really well, and he could be getting even better again this season. So, look, Paul Townend has said, like, he's been on record there. Even I was talking to him for the interview last season, and he said he didn't feel like he was at his absolute 100% peak with him in the champion hurdle. Now, whether he got any closer to Constitution Hill in any case, or even got close to beating them, is another story. But that's interesting in itself. So I'm looking forward to seeing what he does this season. But for me, he's a number 1 Closutton hope at the moment.
And that certainly is going to be a good clash, isn't it? Like at the Dublin Racing Festival, you like to think that in Perry Pa, you mentioned he has to come up to Stateman's level. I think in any other year, last year going into the champion hurdle, you would have been looking at Stateman as a very, very strong favourite. Take Constitution Hill out of the race, and I think that's the question people have in their mind. Did we see the real Stateman last year, and could he still be improving? And I thought it was a very, very, very solid first run of the season from him. He's very, very good, and he's the ultimate racehorse, isn't he? The ultimate pro, I think, has been used to.
And I think you're going to see 1 or 2 things before Cheltenham. Either in Perry Pack goes to Britain to take on Constitution Hill, which will be a cracking race, obviously in its own self, or Stateman goes over. I think Stateman will stick to the tried and tested route personally because he's earned the right to. Or you see Stateman versus Perry Pa in Ireland, and both of those races are obviously going to be excellent. But if Willie trains all these good horses, and we always say this, he's got to run them against each other at some point, and the fact that Perry's Paz stayed over hurdles this season means that they've got to clash at some point. He can't have it all his own way and keep them rest. So we look forward to whichever those situations happen. An absolute tool of a horse now. I thought this was really, really good now, and probably as exciting as a novice chase performance or a beginner's chase era, like a first time out a novice chaser I've seen in a good while. Like, just watching the race back, like I'd say 10, and just after a while it's just like, I gotta let him go. He's real fresh here, and you're half thinking, has he gone off too quick here, and what's going to happen? But he just went further and further. At one stage I'd say he was coming up to, I was looking to see would he get to a fence before the others that jumped the fence that he just jumped, if you know what I mean. He must have been 30 lengths ahead at one point.
Was it the third last Ronan that he absolutely nearly took out of the ground? But apart from that, he was very, 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 very solid.
I thought he was really good, and he's just eased down to win by 15 lengths in the end. And it was a decent enough novice chase, or beginner's chase even. You have some useful types in here. Now I've seen people saying, well, how many of them are actually trying? Some of them had to be trying, like the likes of Senior Chief. Like, he was a real nice prospect to be going chasing with this season, and still is. But Gaelic Warrior has absolutely dismantled him here, and like he's a lovely profile now, lovely age profile. He's actually a type of horse now. I don't know, will he be still doing it as well as in about 3 or 4 years when he's a 10-year-old? Do you know what I mean? Like he's probably.
But he obviously has that form, Ronan. Though he has that form over 3 miles, obviously at the back end of last year, the Punchestown Festival. But interesting, the way he's the most beautiful moving horse, isn't he? Like, personally, he's never a horse that I've been got too attached to over the years. Obviously, disappointed in that. But did he disappoint? He ran a cracker, didn't he? First run for Willie in the Boodles handicap hurdle, but it was the way he jumped on that occasion, a bit of a hiccup. But he's just the most beautiful moving horse, and it was as good a novice chase performance. I have to agree with you. It's hard to argue with you. There was some decent.
Just quickly, that's the only negative you have on him. That jumping tendency, which never cost him that race. Obviously, out to his right that time, and you might want to see him around Leopardstown or something to be absolutely full share of him for Cheltenham. But I'd say
in terms of Cheltenham though, Ronan, you'd be looking at 2.5 for me anyway.
I would have thought so. I mean, like, who knows? But I would have 3 miles was definitely on the cards at the start of the season. But I wonder, like the quote from Willie after Punchestown last season was, "This horse is staying for 3 miles, staying hurdler." And now I just wonder what happened in the summer. Did they jump him over a fence and think we've got to go chasing straight away, because the line fairly changed pretty quickly as the season developed towards the start there, and now he's jumping. So if he is as good going forward as he is over his fences there, I can't see him going up to 3 miles now. He'd want to utilize that strength at 2.5 miles, and even you wouldn't even be surprised if he went down to 2 miles, for all that Willie already has a decent option there with Facile Vega. But for me, he'd run rings around Facile Vega at this point.
Well, if you got a bit jiggy when it came to Gaelic Warrior, I might as well rattle on with one of my performances of the week. We've seen lots of nice, I suppose, beginner chase winners. We have to mention Classical Dream as well, of course, in the past week at Turles on Thursday. But Hackadoo to Bert, as Jerry Hannon would say, I think it was Justin Hanlon down in Cork, but she was very, very good. And some nice types have won this race in the past as well. And I absolutely love the way she attacked her fences. I mean, this is a point-to-point winner from Burris House. I mean, last year, going into the Cheltenham Festival, she wasn't a hurdler. This is a chaser in the making. And she's 6 years of age. She's actually going into the Mayor's Novice Division this year. She's actually older than Allegory de Versailles and the likes of Dino Blue. She's 6 rising 7 next year. So she's quite a mature mare. She's only had 4 starts of her hurdles, and she finished 3rd. The pick of the runs last year was when she finished 3rd, a real eye catcher in the Mayor's Novices hurdle. And yeah, so look, I thought it was a very, very professional performance from her over fences. She was a little bit sticky at the second. She didn't get an easy lead going to the first fence, but she just took off. She was in a different lead to her opponents, really. And I just love the way she absolutely pinged the forward last. And I just think she's going to shape into a much, much better chaser. And I'd have her down very, very high on the list for that Mayor's Chase on the course the Friday. And obviously last year, the new course, basically, it's a more of a stamina test. I think over 2.5 miles, that'll bring out the best. And we've seen novices, of course, in the past as well, Ronan, win the Mayor's Chase with the likes of Cool Reevy in the past, obviously coming from the point-to-point circuit as well. I think she's a lovely profile. And in terms of chasing debuts, it had to be close to a 5-star. But for me, in terms of a chasing debut and a prospect this season, 4.5, I'm very, very sweet now. And Gordon seems to be always very, very bullish about Hackadoo to Bear when speaking about her. And we know how Kenny Alexander loves a decent mare. So I have to say, and Jordan Gameford, just in the aftermath, just to mention, did say that, the stronger the pace, the better the race, the better she's going to be. And I thought, very interestingly, he said she's going to come on a ton for the run. I mean, if she's winning by 20 lengths, hard held down in Cork in the beginner's chase, I mean, there are no mugs in behind. And I just think it was a very, very good performance. Did she catch your eye over the weekend?
Well, you make a pretty solid case for her now. In fairness, I do appreciate she probably was always going to be a chaser. As you said yourself, she's a former point-to-point winner. You said there's no mugs in behind. I wouldn't say it was the strongest race now. Basil in behind the Mullins mare probably
disappointed. Probably,
yeah. Where is she ranked on the types of mares that are down in Sutton? I suppose she was disappointing, wasn't she? And the horse was second. Fed Ends, I'm not sure. Would be up to much at that level anyway, but it's a nice trade. Like the mayor's options are good, aren't they? At this stage,
you want her to beat her by 40 lengths?
I'm not saying she won easy, but you're right. You're allowed to crab the form and ask whether it's up to much. You know, I was just going to say the mayor's races are good options at this point of the year if you're looking for the bar injury, that's the race she's going to go for, right? This is the same I was thinking with Allegory Devassi. So bar injury there, that's where they'll end up. It's not like the novice chasers, novice herders who have loads of options, different distances, you know.
Yeah, I think so. So I thought that was a very, very, very taken performance from her. Favori, the Champ.ie, where have I knocked him? It's interesting. Like, obviously, you mentioned the form of Hackadoo to Bert's Beginner's Chase. Obviously, this is a grade 2, and there's some decent household names in there. Like Sazander Clegane loves it around Punchestown. We mentioned Afra Del Fury, and albeit it was a really decent performance. He was pulled up at the Cheltenham Festival last year, of course. February, the Champ.ie. He's obviously clearly a better chaser. Staying trips. Wouldn't be surprised if he was a national hunt chase type of horse. But typical Jiggins. And thought he jumped particularly well. But I suppose he's come clear of the second. And for me, I just wondered, was that the true run of Xander Clegane and Afra Del Fury? The two of them just seem to go out like a light. So that would be the only... I'd like to see it again from him. But I thought that was a decent performance without being absolutely, totally spectacular. And I have to mention Gidley Park, 3 stars for me, Roland, simply because
I had to do a bit of research on this one. Now I didn't even recognize the name when you put it up. I had to go and watch it. Exeter last week.
One at Exeter. We're dating back to, we recorded the show on the Monday. This actually happened on the Monday, but I just had to mention him. I think he's a lovely, lovely prospect. We've seen obviously Neon Wolf, a lovely novice, a good couple of years ago for Harry Fry. Could this horse be a Ballymore type, perhaps? I thought he was very, very, very green. I love the trainer's comments about not going to get too excited about him. He'll obviously go and win under a penalty, but he's pretty sure he'll win under a penalty. And I would say this horse will be competing in graded races very, 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 very soon. And they, I suppose, coming down to the second last at Exeter, it's a big, big, long straight turning in. Between the second last and the last, they were all basically in a heap. They went very, very slow pace. He was quite green, raced on the wide outside under Johnny Burke, who's given him a good ride in fairness. Very, very green coming down to the last. His jumping could definitely improve. He's definitely going to improve, obviously, I'd say, for a fence in time, excuse the cliche. But he's put lengths between him and he's galloped. He's a proper galloper, this. And I really liked him.
Yeah, I have to, as I said, it wasn't on my radar. I had to go and have a look at him. He did it nicely, I suppose. See, he'll have bigger tests ahead, I'm sure. I'm not sure what they're planning for him.
In terms of a star rating, it's hard to give him any more than a 3 because you're talking about the form down in Cork. This definitely wasn't the strongest race, but somebody's had to do it. I think we'll be hearing quite a bit more about Gidley Park, certainly for Harry Fry and Johnny Burke. That was 7 days ago on Monday. Just wanted to mention a couple, Roland, before we move on to the next section of the show. Well, that is what we'll do. We'll move on to the next section because obviously that's the tracker horse. And we'll come on to that after this.
Gowran Park Racecourse, the premier racetrack in the southeast of Ireland, is located on the outskirts of Kilkenny City. Gowran is your #1 choice for corporate days out, stag and hen party events and an overall great local racing experience. Known as the race that stops the county, the famous Goffs Thyestes Chase 2024 takes place on Thursday the 25th of January.
In the finish of the Goffs Thyestes, invitation only, and Ruby Walsh on the near side for Willie Mullins' 7th win of the race. Invitation only has beaten Alphatus Opus
With packed crowds expected once again this January, you can book your early bird tickets online today. Visit GowranPark.ie online, click the link in the Champ.ie podcast video description, or scan the QR code on screen to purchase right now. Eddie and the team look forward to welcoming you all to Gowran Park Racecourse this winter.
McGree has justified favouritism, but sharp object out in front and ready for John McConnell and Alex Harvey.
Western victory, silver line. That'll be the finishing order.
So we're on to the next section of the show, which is the tracker horse. And Ronan Groome, I suppose, outside the performances that we've already been speaking about on the show this week, what else caught your eye and what is your track horse for the week?
I'll just go through a few of the big performances, Basil. I suppose we should mention the pick Dorothy down at Ascot now. He didn't have much to beat, obviously, because Shishkin, what on earth happened there? Just not in love with the game anymore, perhaps, and a big worry going forward for him. Implications in the King George and Gold Cup markets, I suppose, but don't know if the cheek pieces had any sort of effect on that, but not great to see. But Pick Dory was good, jumped well again. He's a bit of a flat track bully. I've heard people make a bit of a case for him for the King George. Maybe that's where he'll go. So we'll see there. The Grey Dawning was good at Haydock as well, I thought. Beat Galliard and Maynil there. Now getting plenty of weight off him nonetheless.
He was good.
He turned the form. Yeah, like them now. And he'll go back to Warwick, Dan Skelton says, for the same card he won on last season. That good card at Warwick after Christmas, sometime in January, and could end up in the Brown Advisory. Thought he was good. So see what happens with him. He's going to be a better chaser than he was hurdler anyway. I was very close to putting this juvenile hurdler in as one of my selections this week. Mighty Bandit. Did you see this thing at Punchestown?
I did.
Very good.
Very, very impressive performance.
And it was interesting. Gordon said after, he said they worked him a couple of times. He got a bit light on them. They backed off him. And they weren't really expecting him to do what he did there. And he's won really easily, you know. So lots to come from him, I'd say. And the Boylesports traders were pretty impressed with him as well, it seems. So see what he does. And Gordon had another nice novice hurdler that won, Shannon Royale. Might end up in a race like the Albert Bartlett. He completely turned around what he did first time out to go and win by 24 lengths there at Punchestown. Really impressive. It was interesting. Gordon mentioned the handicap hurdle for him after the race. So we'll see what happens there. And then just a quick word for the handicaps. Slate Lane backed off the boards and won really easy over in Haydock. What could he do at the festival? I don't know. He has a lot to do now to get into a stairs hurdle type of horse. But watch him, obviously, going forward next time. Maybe he'll end up, maybe they'll get them qualified for the Pertemps or something like that. And Jody Ted beat Gabby's Cross back at Punchestown in the Pertemps qualifier. He'd have to win again to get into the Pertemps, Jody Ted, but Gabby's Cross mightn't have to win again. He'd be, close enough to the level he'd need to be. So be interesting if they put him away, because he's kind of he has an advantageous mark over hurdles compared to his chase mark. Now I don't know what he'd get in Britain, but he'd be good enough to get into the race already, and he probably just met a really well handicapped horse in Jody Ted there. Who I think might go for the Paddy Power next, and it'd be really interesting for that. My horse to follow, finally, or my tracker horse even, is Coccolino, another horse I mentioned on the Thursday show. I thought he ran a really eye-catching race again, just staying on at the third. I'd be very disappointed now if there wasn't at least one big pot in this fella, and they're probably just waiting for the day. Maybe something like 2-5 there at the Dublin Racing Festival, the old Leopardstown Chase, maybe could be his bag. He stayed on nicely again. He's off a rating of 130, and as I said, I think there's a good race in him off that sort of mark.
I think you've covered a lot there. We're just dating back to Thursday in Thurles. I thought Classical Dream was a very, very decent tracing performance from a 9-year-old who, I suppose Willie Mullins was probably looking on saying, why didn't they send him over fences maybe a little bit sooner? Because the way he jumped, it was like dressage, wasn't it? I thought it was pretty much a flawless round. How strong was the race? Once again, I don't think it was the strongest, but in terms of a beginner's chase, I thought it was very, very impressive from Classical Dream. So be interesting to see, does he shape up into a Brown Advisory type? There is, well, obviously Iroko coming out. He was on many people's lists, and with Gaelic Warrior now, perhaps maybe going down the Turner's route as Classical Dream. It'd be interesting to see where he pitches up perhaps over Christmas and how he does. But certainly I thought it was a very, very good chase performance. And it looked a real natural. That's Classical Dream on Thursday. Corrick Rambler. I wanted to mention this in the big race, and that was for me, in terms of a Cheltenham run, I thought Corrick Rambler was very eye-catching. Look, he stepped forward last year, the first half of the season. Similar enough, we mentioned fast or slow, gearing up towards the Ultima. It was similar with Corrick Rambler last year. Obviously, going back for the Ultima after winning it the previous year, it took him a while to maybe find his feet. He must have takes a run, clearly, and he's come forward for that Carlisle run. I thought it's not never going to be his track, is it? At this time of year, Haydock, and albeit he got a little bit outpaced the way he jumped the last two fences at Haydock when the game was up at that stage. The race was already won. I thought he showed plenty of life, and I think he's going to come forward a lot again. I'd say he's going to take in the Gold Cup en route, and it'd just be interesting to see in a Gold Cup that there could be plenty of pace once again this year. Could he creep away? He's a massive price now, 33-1 for the Gold Cup. But in terms of the British contingent, Corrick Rambler for me is a very lively dark horse for a Cheltenham Gold Cup. He's unbeaten over fences at Cheltenham. So I just thought there was signs of life there in his run. And I think there's certainly going to be another spring campaign in him. Yes, and my tracker horse for the week came at Ludlow. Tried Ludlow on a Monday, Ronan. And Philip Hobbs, Michael Nolan was on board. 11-length winner, son of Sant de Sants, out of a network mare. He was a point-to-point winner for the Crawfords. He's definitely going to improve. I think in terms of stepping up in trip, I think it's definitely you're going to see this horse at the best effect. He was quite green early in the run. When Michael Nolan turning for home asked him to pick up, it took him a while now. When the penny dropped, he came home and won by 11 lengths, and it was a very, very cosy win. And whether he wins under a penalty, he could be one for maybe novice handicaps, perhaps in the spring. But it was interesting, connections afterwards. When speaking about the horse Imperial Saint, I'm not saying he's going to be an absolute superstar, but he'll be winning plenty of races. And I'd say they were shocked he won over 2 miles first time up. I think it was just really an educational spin round, and he's done it quite nicely. So Imperial Saint and Dickie Johnson's involved in the horse for Hobbs and Michael Nolan. So that was my tracker horse for the week. Didn't go so well, of course, with Primos at the weekend, but we'll keep the show on the road, and we have that road at the Cheltenham Challenge tracker that's constantly giving us little alerts right throughout the season. So let us know your tracker horse down below. But it's time we moved on to the big race, Ronan. The big race in focus this week, and we said we'd skip on. We'd look ahead because everyone's starting to talk about it now. There was a flood of money, I do believe, for Jerry Colombe for the King George, and we said we'd take a peek. Why not? Jerry Colombe, 5-2 favourite with our sponsors Boylesports for the King George. Braveman's Game, he was disappointing. Allaho at 9-2. Shishkin, cheap pieces, refused to race. What do you make of this, Ron?
The fascinating thing is that the money for Jerry Colombe, which obviously is originating from some sort of chatter from Cullentra that they might go and have a crack at this. And it makes sense to me, to be honest, Basil, because I know you're probably skeptical of him over 3 miles flat course at Kempton, but I think it's a winnable race, is it not? And like Braveman's Game, what do you say about him at this point? Like, it's the same kind of conundrum with Galopin Des Champs as well. Is he as good as he was last year? And the jury is obviously out. Like Nichols was saying in the Racing Post on Saturday morning that the race definitely wasn't an afterthought going to the Betfair Chase. I mean, it definitely was an afterthought. I mean, I'm sure it wasn't in the plan. And I think the owners put the foot down and said, we're going here. And hence the whole Harry Cobden thing started, because Cobden was probably always going to Ascot. And next thing, it's decided that Braveman's Game is going to go to Haydock, and he hasn't actually gone and won. And like Royal Pagaille, as good as a horse he is around Haydock, and he has won plenty there, I'm not sure he is up to the standard of a Gold Cup, that sort of level. And he's gone and beat him pretty comfortably in the end. He's outstayed him. And not for the first time, Brave Man's Game has looked a bit soft on the finish. The same as you could say the same.
If you'd asked me
at
the question, just the question in relation to Jerry Calam and the money for him. If you'd asked me on the Monday show after the champion chase at Down Royal, what my thoughts were on Jerry Calam going for the King George, what do you think I would have said?
I would have said, you'd probably say no chance.
Absolutely no chance. And I would have said no chance I'd be even interested in backing him for it either. But I suppose
why do you say that? Why do you actually say that though? Because he's a Grade 1 win. He's a dual Grade 1 winning novice over 2.5 miles.
I just thought last year at Cheltenham, he got done for a small little bit of toe. And I thought we saw it again at Down Royal. And I get what you're saying. And, he did win at Sandown over 2.5 miles in that. Of course, in that Grade 1 contest. Was it a Grade 1? It was a Grade 1 by name, but was it really a Grade 1? I suppose the question I'd ask. And I just don't think it's his biggest strength. You have to look at the strengths and the weaknesses of a horse. I think Jerry Calam will be definitely seeing the best effect at Cheltenham, coming up that hill at the end of a 3 mile, 2 furlong contest on the new course. At Kempton, albeit the race doesn't look that strong, could we be, and I know he's on a little bit maybe of a recovery mission, but could we now be underestimating, wait for it, the real whacker at Kempton, who's beaten Jerry Calam, who's a very, very on his best day, he's unbeaten, don't forget, going into the Cheltenham November handicap over 2.5 miles. His biggest asset is his jumping, and could Kempton perhaps suit him even better than Kempton? Could an easier 3 mile, for example, around Kempton, where he can use his jumping to best effect? Could that suit the real whacker? There has been a genuine excuse reported off the back of it that he was lame. His right 4, he was lame on the aftermath. So I think that's positive that there was an excuse. And I just thought at 14-1, you look down the list, Allaho, very unlikely probably to go for the race. Jerry Calam, is he definitely going to turn up in the race? Brave Man's Game, he's on a recovery mission big time. And Shishkin has just refused to race. So, if Shishkin did jump off, he'd have to have a live, wouldn't he?
He'd be live, all right. But I don't know. I think he's got his own ideas now about the game, Shishkin. So, yeah, you couldn't even could you even back him at all, really? When he's got that in him now, to be honest, it's he's unbackable, really. He's not a prospect. Allaho, I believe they're considering this, aren't they? There's a chance he could actually show up here. The real whacker, I get what you're saying, but the fact that he has that little setback now wouldn't inspire me confidence either. You'd nearly need to see him again just to see him back on track. Pick Dory, I mentioned as a possible, he could be a big price in a race that could cut up if Jerry Calam didn't come over or something like that. Laham Presse win to him.
I'd be interested to see if the real whacker I know it's priced more or less accordingly, but if the real whacker hadn't ran at Cheltenham in the November handicap over 2.5 miles and I suppose bomb out like he did, what price, if he was going straight for a race like this, he's won fresh in the past, what price would he actually be off the back of beating Jerry Calam and what Jerry Calam has achieved? I'm just wondering, is it maybe worth taking the chance at the likes of 14-1, a double figure price on him? I'm not saying, I'm talking Ante-Post now. I mean, there was a genuine excuse. So I'm just throwing it out there. But at this point in time,
I get what you're saying. Like in theory, the race should suit him a lot, shouldn't he? He's a bold jumper, a real smooth traveller from the front. He could get horses under pressure there down the back. If he was at full pelt, that's just my worry with him, is it? Like, just coming off the back of that run, you have that kind of question mark in your head, don't you?
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see. Let us know what you think about the King George at this point in time down below. But the horse I'd really love to see is Allaho, and if he did go, he would take the absolute world of beating in this, I believe, anyway.
He should go as well. That would suit him down to the ground, that sort of race.
If you're listening, Willie, send Allaho to the King George. Yeah, I definitely think that would be an ideal race target for him. en route perhaps to another tilt at the Ryanair. I'd love to see him in a Gold Cup, but I don't think that would ever happen. Let us know what your idea of the King George winner is down below. Before we move on to the selections, because we do have the next segment, and we always answer the big questions, so make sure. We've had such great engagement once again on the series, Roland. We're still updating that spreadsheet, by the way, and we're going to kick it in, the portfolio review. We're going to kick that in after 3 selections, so we can get a proper review of everyone's portfolio. So someone next week, week 4, will be reviewing the portfolio. But big question time. Stuart Etheridge he always participates very well in the comments, and his question is in relation to appreciated Ronan Groome.
Yes, can you see appreciate turning into a Ryanair contender? After Sunday's excellent run further down the line, he thinks he could be a national horse, which is interesting in itself. When he was a young horse, appreciated, they talked about him going possibly for the Albert Bartlett, if I do recall correctly, and then he showed so much speed earlier on. So maybe down the line he would be interesting as a stayer type of horse, and that's not a bad shout. But I liked him a lot. I was very close to putting him up for the Ryanair, Stuart. So I could see exactly where you're thinking from. I think there's a huge amount of belief in the horse. You look at the prices he went off last season. He went off 11-8 against El Fabiolo at Leopardstown, really backed in that really red hot 2-mile Arkle trial, or the Irish Arkle. And then he was off 3-1 against Mighty Bandit, who was the banker for so many people going over to Cheltenham as well. So like they have backed him off the boards in big races. And the word from Closutton has always been really warm for appreciate. So it'd be very, very promising start to the season from him. Did he get a bit of a run of things from the front? Possibly. But it was still a huge step up on what he'd done last season. It was his first run in open company over fences. And you have to remember that they taught enough of this horse to run him in the champion hurdle on his first start of the season. Seems to be an unwavering belief in him down in Closutton. That probably took a few dents last season, but that was much better from him today. And at whatever he was, he's 12-1 with Boylesports. That's not a bad price, even though the Ryanair seems to be shaping up to a nice renewal this year. If everything,
I wonder is appreciated one of those horses that has deceived Willie Mullins over the years, because say if you were to ask Willie at the end of his bumper campaign, where do you see appreciated in 2 or 3 years' time? I wouldn't have said he would have mentioned. I wouldn't have said he would have even mentioned the champion hurdle route. Obviously, he's gone supreme. He's bolted up in that. I say a lot of people, even in the hour, were probably thinking Ballymore, even Albert Bartlett after his bumper career, and long-term view to being, a Gold Cup horse and a staying chaser. And so I think he makes a really good point, Stuart, that now at the age of 9, I mean, if he didn't run at the weekend and be raised 8 or 9 pounds, we could have saw him running off top weight in the Tiestes Chase. And I was actually looking at him as perhaps and on his own type of character, with maybe a little bit more class than the likes of maybe more of a Jack Adam type of horse. But it's just an interesting point. I think National Days might just be gone at this stage. 2.5 miles.
He's 160 now over fences, so possibly so. But he doesn't know. There's a lot of classy horses take their chance in the National these days. So maybe that might be an option going forward, but maybe next year that could be his sort of bag.
We'll get your big questions down below for next week. Make sure to give the video a like, as you always do, and post your week 3 selections. And of course, as we did say, the next section of the show next week going forward will be the portfolio spotlight, as we've 3 selections to look at from a particular viewer next week, and we look forward to doing that. And of course, if you haven't subscribed to the channel, make sure to do so, and keep up the fight. Isn't that right, Ronan Groome, as we build up to Cheltenham Festival 2024? Right, next section of the show is, of course, going to be our week 3 selections, and Ronan Groome is 2 selections because, of course, just to highlight, when we did stop the recording last week, we just got the news that Iroko was ruled out for the rest of the season, so we decided not to publish that part of the video. So we're giving you 2 selections this week, Ronan Groome. Lucky you that we didn't post it, but yeah, after this section, or after this, should I say, we're going to reveal 3 selections on the Road to Cheltenham Challenge episode number 3.
Gowran Park Racecourse, the premier racetrack in the southeast of Ireland, is located on the outskirts of Kilkenny City. Gowran is your number one choice for corporate days out, stag and hen party events, and an overall great local racing experience. Known as the race that stops the county, the famous Goffs Thyestes Chase 2024 takes place on Thursday the 25th of January.
In the finish of the Goffs Thyestes, invitation only, and Ruby Walsh on the near side for Willie Mullins' 7th win of the race. Invitation only has beaten Outfitters Opus.
With packed crowds expected once again this January, you can book your early bird tickets online today. Visit gowranpark.ie online, click the link in the Champ.ie podcast video description, or scan the QR code on screen to purchase right now. Eddie and the team look forward to welcoming you all to Gowran Park Racecourse this winter.
McGree had justified favouritism, but sharp object out in front was ready for John McConnell and Alex Harvey.
Western victory, silver line, never be the finishing order.
The floor is yours, Ronan Groome. Who's your replacement for last week?
Well, first of all, Basil, I tip my cap to you. It would have been a fair game now if you just said, right, that's your selection gone. But you've afforded me 2 selections this week. Very sporting of you. So thank you very much for that.
The measure of the man,
my main selection this week, I suppose, or the one that's where the good people at Boylesports are enhancing, is the Gaelic Warrior, who we've discussed in detail already. But I don't know. I couldn't let this one get away, and I'm not privy to playing Willie Mullins Bingo in February. Never mind November. But I just think the Turners is going to be the race for this horse. I can't see him going up to 3 miles now. The way he jumped and travelled through that race at Punchestown, and I don't think Willie will drop him back 2 miles as long as Facile Vega stays sound. And even if he didn't stay sound, or he went awry, Facile Vega, or didn't live up to how good he was last season, I still think Gaelic Warrior would be better off in the Turners. And I think just the way he jumped and travelled, he's going to be a better chaser than he is a herder, and he was a fair herder himself anyway. He's rated 153 over hurdles. Only found in Perry Pass too good in the Ballymore last season, and of course, just touched off by Brazil in the Fred Winter the year before. He seems to be only coming into his own now. He's only a 5-year-old. Love the profile. Can only be getting better. And I can just see him going to... he could possibly go to Limerick on St. Stephen's Day, where he might run against American Mike. But the 2-5 race probably makes a lot of appeal for him at Leopardstown, the Grade 1 there at the Dublin Racing Festival. And to be honest, I think he could end up very short price for this if he continues to impress as he does. So I wanted to get him on the board, and I thought it'd be a good one to enhance for the people. I'm sure he would have impressed a lot of people who watch this show. And the 92 available about him on the Boylesports website now, I'm sure will entice a few people in.
Yeah, well, of course, you can avail of that offer up to midnight as a recording on the 28th, Tuesday the 28th. So if you fancy getting involved, make sure to click the link in the description with our good sponsors, Boylesports. And yeah, Gaelic Warrior, shades of Gallop in the Champs on his chasing debut, perhaps. But yeah, it looked an absolute
shades
weapon.
of a Nerjamin.
Wouldn't go that far now. Okay. Well, why don't you play catch up then? What's your second selection?
Okay, sorry, I thought you were going to go in, but I'll jump in then. A Look to the West is going to be my second selection. Now, this is a bit of a flyer because I have gone a bit solid so far. I've gone with the Allegory Devassi and the Gaelic Warrior, and both around the same sort of price. So I wanted to take a flyer. I was at Navan the day she won her mare's maiden hurdle. This mare, I think she won with plenty in hand. She was jumping out to her right for most of the journey, but she still held off. Well backed co-favorite there, Bioluminescence, who came at her but never really looked like she was going to go past. This was a big talking mare last season, but I think she had a bit of a setback. She was coming out of the point field. She won her second point by 10 lengths. She was all the point boys were saying this is one to follow, and she didn't show up. But she's only a 5-year-old. Henry's had a lot of time to work on her, and he still has a lot of time to sort her jumping out when she could, which will make her I'm sure will make her a better mare and progress her further in time. The only race for her at Cheltenham, if they were to go to Cheltenham this season, would be the Mares Novice Hurdle. So that's attractive in its own right. And granted, there's a lot of nice mares there, none more so than Brighter Days Ahead, who I'm a big fan of. But I think this is a nice progressive looking mare. And Henry ran plenty in the Mares Novice Hurdle last season, and I could well see her running there. So 20-1, I thought could be a big old price.
Yeah, of course, second in the Mares Novice last year, and of course won the race with Tell Me Something Girl. So clearly has experience of going close in that particular race. So I wouldn't put you off that whatsoever. Looks wide open though, doesn't it? I'm going to stick with the mares as well, but this time go to the Mares Chase. And I thought it was interesting you put up Allegory de Vesey on episode 1. You thought you were playing it safe. And in fairness to you, Roland, that division, it's hard to see too many come from left field. I mean, you know, Allegory de Vesey is going to be there. You know, Dino Blue is likely to end up in the Mares Chase as well. But I'm going to stick with one of Gordon Elliott's. We mentioned her already. No prizes for guessing. I probably gave it away earlier on the show. But I'm going to go with Hackadoo Bear. And I think it's a big old thing. I think for the Mares Chase on the Friday, on the new course. We'd soft ground last year. If it was soft ground this year, you're definitely not going to see double figures. I just absolutely loved her chasing Baby Dana Cork, the way she attacked her fences. The 4 out was a sight to behold. And the way she jumped in the main, I wouldn't mind seeing her, you know, show up over 2 miles somewhere, because I think she has enough class and pace to do that. But in 2.5 miles at Cheltenham, good to soft ground or softer. We're not doing the rain dance now on episode number 3, Ronan Groome, but I think she can find a good to soft ground. She's a lovely profile for the race. She was very, very good, of course, last year as a novice hurdler. She third, of course, in the Mares Novice. I thought she was a really light catcher. The way she crept into that contest was a strong run. I don't think the race would have been run to suit her now. Similar to Magical Zoe, they came from well off the pace, but back to her chasing debut. And she was foot perfect, bar I think the second fence, and big engine. She won by 20 lengths, eased down, and I love Jordan Gainford's comments afterwards, suggesting that she's going to come on massively. And the better the race, the stronger the pace in a race, like the Mares Chase, I think would suit her down to the ground. She's a point-to-point winner as well. So that was at Burris House when she won a point-to-point. So I think anything Gordon speaks about the horse as well, he gives her a very, very, very positive mention. So Hackadoo to Bear for me in a division that could cut up. Not sure how many runners there'll be in the race. And Gordon Elliott's Hackadoo to Bear will do for me. I'm sure Kelly Alexander would love another mare in a race like this.
Yeah, I'm sure you would. Yeah, you make a good case for her now, Basil, I must say. And that enhancement's a nice little enhancement now, 10-1 out to 14. So you've grabbed plenty of margin there, and it's hard to see her show up anywhere else, I suppose, at the festival other than that race. And but you've deserved. You are one of the founding members of the Allegory de Vesey fan club. So you've really you've done a Yui on that altogether.
Well, to be fair, Ronan Groome, you have to go with your eyes. And Allegory de Vesey last year, just speaking about the Mares Chase at the moment, actually, before we wrap up, Allegory de Vesey had the world at her feet last year, and she's clearly a very, very talented mare, but thought she'd every single opportunity after the last fence. For me, she spit out the dummy. I'm not sure she enjoyed the hill.
She was beaten by a fair mare now, in fairness.
She was beaten by a fair mare who we might not see until the back end of the season, or till the second half of the season at least, and that'd be a worry for her chances. And Dino Blue has obviously come through the handicap route. Obviously was second last year, wasn't she, in the Grand Annual Chase, and I think stepping up and trip. I just worry about stamina with her. She didn't blow me away on her first start of the season. I think she was entitled to win at Naas, getting all that weight, Dino Blue, and I need to see more from her. Whereas Hackadoo to Bear, as we said earlier on in the show, she's rising 7. She's that perfect profile. We saw Colarivi do it as a novice, and I think Hackadoo to Bear could follow could follow a similar pattern, obviously being a point-to-point winner herself. So, yeah, that's selection number 3 for me. And just to acknowledge Mr. Policeman last week, I'm wearing the Mr. Policeman silks, but he's a lot of work to do, doesn't he?
He does, yeah. Probably wanted to see a bit more from him like that, but I suppose first time out, so still has a chance to progress forward. But I suggest you probably were a bit on the downside rather than the positive side. When
I didn't see the race live. I was en route to Westport at the time, and there was a bit of stick coming through. But sure, look, it's a long season, and look, all 3 of my selections anyway to date have been double figure prices, and I think likewise yourself, you've gone with big juicy prices. The likes of Gaelic Warrior and Allegory the Vassy, you've been really going for double figure prices at this early stage of the season. So listen, let us all know your week 3 selections on the road to Cheltenham Challenge. It's been a very long weekend. We cannot wait for episode 4 already. Lots of racing this week. What are you most looking forward to? We've seen entries today as we're talking for Fairyhouse. Obviously, we've Newcastle and we've Newbury as well. Anything that what are you mostly looking forward to this weekend?
I'm like you, Basil. I'm a big fan of the old Coral Gold Cup, the old Hennessy. So I'm very much looking forward to that. I'm in Fairyhouse on Sunday, working. Unfortunately, this time, so I'll be able to I'll probably watch a few races with you if you're down. I'm looking forward to previewing all the action, obviously on the Thursday show as well. So I'm sure you have plenty up your sleeve for what you're having on that show. So top class weekend, probably one of the better pre-Christmas weekends.
As if the last 3 or 4 years, myself and yourself have actually been there in a social capacity, but now we're both working for it. So tough times, but I'm sure we'll enjoy it anyway. And some interesting entries to say the least. But yeah, that's been episode number 4 of the Road to Cheltenham Challenge. We look forward to next week. If you haven't subscribed to the channel, it helps us, so please do, and post your comments with your selections, which are third selections of the series down below, and smash the old like button. And I think we've had over 90, I've counted, separate entries to the challenge, and of course the prize.
Let's get the 100
on the eve of the Cheltenham Festival. Of course, we'll be judging. It's Judgment Day. And VIP trip for 2 to the Boylesports Irish Grand National, as you know. And it was Patrick Connolly, of course, was the winner last year. And we'll see who we judge the winner this year. We'll see you for episode number 4. And see you Thursday for a build-up to Fairyhouse, Newcastle and Newbury. Cannot wait.